All right. Can y'all hear me okay? Very good. Cool. My name is Greg. I serve as a developer evangelist for Twilio. And thank you all so much for coming. I know there's like 3 other talks going on right now, and I really appreciate all coming out. I want to talk to you about how I taught my dog to send selfies. And here is, oh my gosh, it's still, let's see here if we can. My apologies for the delay. We'll do this. All right. It's imperfect, but it's better than nothing. So this is my dog. This is Kyra. And really what this talk is about is an introduction to hacking on the Arduino Yun. And I'm a software developer, mostly web developer. And I was pretty intimidated by hardware for quite a while. And you know, I think I maybe got like a D in my electrical engineering class in college, and all the wires and stuff. And I didn't, you know, the Arduino programming language is based off of Java, and that seemed pretty intimidating to me. But a cool thing happened a couple years ago, and that's we got Kyra. And Kyra, as it turns out, is relatively trainable. And so we had this light that had a floor switch on it. And I realized that if I took a treat and I held it to the floor switch and I took her paw and I set her paw on that switch and then pushed down on it, then eventually she would learn that when I said light, to run over and press the button. And then when I said light again, she would run over and she'd turn the light back off. And this was great because I'd be laying in bed and I didn't want to, you know, turn the light on and off myself. And problem is, Kyra's like a little bit too smart, and she kind of realized that when she did it, like she was so adorable that I couldn't not give her a treat even when I didn't tell her to do it. So we'd start waking up in the middle of the night to the light going on and off because Kyra got hungry. But like, how do you say no to that, you know? And so often, the most impressive, complicated hacks, they're just like simple building blocks stacked on top of one another, right? Like it's just a collection of relatively simple, straightforward components. And so after this happened, I start thinking, well, I've got a dog that can press a button. Like, what can I do with that? And last year, Twilio launched MMS. And for those of you who aren't familiar, how many of you have heard of Twilio before? Okay, a few of you, cool. How many of you, have any of you used Twilio before? All right, so just a little bit. So Twilio is best known, you know, for like the last 6 or 7 years for making it really easy for developers to send and receive text messages and place and receive phone calls in just a few lines of code in whatever programming language you're most comfortable with. We have helper libraries for, so I kind of have an idea. Who here primarily is, say, a Rubyist? A few. Python? No? .NET? Yeah, Java? Oh, that's the bulk. So y'all would be totally fine with the Arduino stuff. So we have helper libraries in all those languages. You know, whatever. It's basically a REST API with helper libraries on it. And you could send and receive text messages. And then last year, we came out with MMS. And so once that happened, I started to wonder, I wonder if I could get Kyra to send me selfies while I was like away on business trips. And so I didn't really know how to do this, but then I discovered this thing called the Arduino Yun. And the Arduino Yun is, have any of you played with the Arduino before? Like an Arduino period? A little bit, okay. So an Arduino Yun, it actually has 2 microprocessors on it. So the typical Arduino has 1, and the Arduino Yun has a second microprocessor that runs a very stripped down version of Linux called OpenWRT. And that microprocessor comes with Python installed on it, but you could also install Ruby or Node or any scripting language that you are comfortable with. And the other thing that this Yun has is Wi-Fi, which is awesome. Because one of the big complaints or frustrations that folks will often run into when they start hardware hacking is that they've built these really cool hacks, but they are unable to connect them to the internet. You know, it does something, but they can't, you know, connect it and tell the world about that something. So I got the Arduino Yun and started playing around with it. And this is the rest of this talk is a story of what happened there. And so what I'm going to do is walk you through the steps that we used to take the Arduino Yun, which is hiding in this cigar box right here. This is a little pro tip, well, not pro tip, amateur tip. If you are into hardware hacking, cigar shops sell empty cigar boxes for like $2 a piece. And they make for awesome enclosures for your projects. So hiding in here is an Arduino Yun, and if anyone y'all want to see it afterwards, feel free to come on up. Connected to an easy button, which all the stuff you can buy online. And we're going to walk through how we use that button to take a picture with this webcam. We're going to take a picture of all you. And we're going to have you pull out your phones and text into a Twilio phone number so that we can use your phone numbers in this demonstration. And we're going to send y'all a selfie that we all take here together. And we're going to do all this in code, assuming that the keyboard starts working again. So does it sound good? Yeah? All right, cool. So really cool thing about the Arduino Yun is you can SSH into it. All right, and so this is what it looks like when you SSH into your other Arduino. All right, it's just a shell that y'all are pretty comfortable working with. So the steps that we're going to need to do when we press the button is that we want the Arduino to take a picture with the webcam. Then we need to take that picture, we need to get it off the Arduino and into the cloud. And we're going to use Dropbox to do that. And then we're going to send an MMS using Twilio to all your phones, okay? We're going to do this a little bit backwards. We're going to start with the Twilio piece so that we can collect your numbers, kind of build up from there. Then we'll look at taking the picture. Then we'll upload to the cloud. And then we're going to put everything together and show how to do it at the press of a button actually on the Arduino, okay? All right, so first thing, everything with Twilio begins with a phone number. And so we're going to go to Twilio, and we're going to buy a phone number. And who here is from out of state? Who's not from Chicago? Where are you from? Utah. What's your area code in Utah?
We want to put your cell phone number. Actually, my cell phone number somewhere else.
Oh, no, just your area code. What's the
801.
80. All right, let's see if we have any 801. Oh, sorry. We'll buy a number. We'll see if we have any 801 numbers. Sorry, how many of you are actually from Chicago? All right, great. Oh, wow, I am too. I've lived here for 10 years and absolutely love it. So we'll search for an 801. Okay, so here we go. Here's an 801 number. So we'll buy this. And just to show you like the simplest hello world in Twilio, and to give you all something to text. If you all want to pull out your cell phones, I promise you I will not like use your numbers, like sell you insurance or anything like that later on. But if you all want to play along today, I'm going to just pull up the site called Twimlbin. Twilio works basically like, just like if any of you have built any web applications before. All right, so the way that Twilio is going to work, in the same way that your browser makes an HTTP request to a web server, whenever a text message comes into a Twilio phone number, Twilio makes an HTTP request to a server that you have somewhere. You're going to send back XML, which we call TWIML, and the TWIML looks really simple, and it's just a set of instructions to tell Twilio what you'd like to do. So I'm just going to say, thank you. All right, and then this Twimlbin here just serves up static XML. It just gives me a URL where I can stick a little XML. And I'm just going to put that in here to my webhook for my phone number and save it. So now whenever a text message comes in to this phone number here, then Twilio is going to make an HTTP request. It's going to get that XML back, and then it's going to reply with a message that just says thank you. So if y'all would like to send a text to this number, text something, please be mature about it, because we're going to display these text messages up on the screen here in just a couple minutes. So that disclaimer is more necessary when we're doing this demo for, like, say, high schoolers or college hackathons. We still end up with lots of poops and craps and such. So has anyone gotten a reply back? No signal here. That always makes these demos more difficult. You got it? All right, cool. All right, so hopefully the rest of y'all will start getting replies back, and we'll see what happens. You got it? Okay, cool. All right, so as your text messages come in, Twilio is going to log those. And now, just to reiterate, I am SSH'd into a computer that's inside this box that's about the size of a deck of playing cards. And it costs $70. It has pins on it for hardware hacking, and it has a really simple computer. So often, I always have to remind myself when I'm doing this, because I'm so used to working in a shell on my Mac that this doesn't really feel particularly special sometimes. But then I have to remind myself, you can buy computers that are less than $100. I mean, the Raspberry Pi is $25 now, and this thing is the Arduino plus a Linux computer for $70 is pretty amazing. So all the coding we're going to do here is actually SSH'd into that Yun there. So what I'm going to do is change the directory into the external card that is on the Yun. So it has a micro SD slot, and so I have an 8 GB drive in there, or just little card in there. And I'm going to create a new file to send an SMS. All right, and in order to send an SMS, I'm first going to need a Twilio phone number. And we'll just format this in a way that makes Twilio happy. And then I'll need my account SID, which I can get from here. For those of you who here has written something that interacts with an API before, done something with an API. Okay, all right, that's good. That's comforting. You never know. So account SID auth token is basically your username and password for programmatic access. And copy this here too. All right, and then I just need to import the Twilio library. Import, oh, here we go. Sorry, I totally screwed this up. From twilio.rest, import Twilio client. And then I need to create an API client using my account SID and my auth token. And then once I have the client, I can grab a list of all the messages that y'all have sent to the Twilio phone number, the 801 number that I just purchased. And once I have the list of messages, then I can iterate through each one, and I can grab the body of the message. I can grab the phone number of the message, and then I can print those out. So I won't actually print out your full phone numbers because we're going to tape this and put it up, or video this and put it up online. So I'll obfuscate those just a little bit, and we'll just display the last 4 digits. But we will then add on the body here. All right, so does that make sense? So we're creating a Twilio client with our account SID and our auth token. We're pulling down a list of all the messages there. And then we're iterating through each message, grabbing the body, grabbing the phone number, and printing those out on the screen. So before we go on, let's just test, make sure that works. And we'll see the messages that y'all have sent in here. Uh-oh. What do you have here? Messages, client.mess. Client. Twilio client object has no attribute messages. Well, that's weird. Let me tell you what, this is one of the secrets of live coding is you always have a backup plan here, right? So I must have just mistyped something, so my apologies. What's that? Twilio, oh, Twilio REST client, thank you very much. All right. All right. Thank you. There you go. That look better? we'll try this again. All right, so we got a few of these here. Now, what happens sometimes, especially if you're working with phone numbers that are international or some carriers that don't play nice, is you're going to have some phone numbers that will fail with Twilio. So oftentimes it's important to, when this happens, you can just come in and you can wrap your the stuff that you're doing in a try and catch, because you don't want a bad number to break everything. Was that, I saw somebody sent in Unicode characters. Was that an intentional thing, or did that just happen with the phone? Yeah, all right. All right, so we'll run this again, and hopefully now this will just go through everything and we won't get there. All right, cool. So there we go. So we have our list of text messages. Thank you all who texted in. Thank you for keeping it clean for us. So that is how we pull down messages. Let's look real quick at how we initiate sending a text message. And then once we send that text message, we're going to look at how to send an MMS. So very similar, client.messages.create. And we need 3 things whenever we create a new text message. Anyone have any idea what those are? I guess I already just typed one of them, right? We need a to number. What's the next thing? A from, yeah. All right, so that's going to be our Twilio phone number. And what's the last thing? A message, yep, message body. All right, and so I'm going to send y'all a link with doggy selfies to the blog post that has all of this information in it, okay? And so you can just click through there and it has all the files and links to everything that you can buy and whatnot. All right, so I'm creating new message. I give it a to number, I give it a from number, I give it a body. And we'll run this again. And as it steps through, it's going to print out all your information. And then a couple seconds later, you'll see a little bit more of a delay. And then a couple seconds later, you should start getting text messages show up. So, like I said before, and when you get a text message, wave your hand or let me know that came through. You got one? Okay, great. So, like I said before, for like 6-7 years, as far as on the text messaging front, this is all you could really do with Twilio, which was awesome. Like people built some really, really, really cool stuff with this. And then last year, though, we launched MMS. We're super, super excited about it. And so let me show you how you take what we just built and send in MMS. And just for the sake of correct file names, we'll copy this to a new file, and then we'll edit that one. So all you need to do in order to send an MMS, oops, let's put a comma on there, is add a 4th parameter, which is a media URL. And this is just going to be a link to a publicly accessible picture, okay? So it's just a picture that has a URL that Twilio can access. All right, so now we have 2 from the body and then a link to a picture. And so we'll run that one. All right, and now text messages are pretty small, right? Like text messages take up, like you measure their length in bytes. Pictures are quite a bit larger, and I would say that probably next to, say, carrier pigeons or the US Postal Service, sending data via MMS is about the slowest method of transmission that you can get. So this is going to take a little bit longer for it to come. Now that said, we're going to help you out as much as we possibly can on that front. So what we're going to do when you send a text message or when you send a picture message through Twilio, the first time you send that in, we're going to resize it for you to fit the format, so to size that's a little bit better for phones. And then we're also going to cache it for you. So the second time that you send an MMS, it's going to go a little bit faster because we won't have to do that operation. You get it in? All right. So y'all are getting pictures of Kyra there wearing her Twilio headband. All right. Unfortunately now, Kyra didn't take that picture. I had to take that picture. So this only gets us half of the way. what we want to do is take a picture with this webcam, and then we need to get that publicly accessible URL, right? So taking a picture with the webcam, turns out it was like super easy. I was blown away with how easy it is to do this. So there is a Linux utility called FS Webcam that just takes two parameters. One is the directory where you would like, or the file name where you'd like to store the picture. And the second one is the resolution that you want to take it at. I'm just going to take this at a low resolution. The camera does a much higher resolution than this, but for the sake of fast MMSs, we'll do it this way. All right, so 3, 2, 1, need everyone to smile. And you should see there will be a green light here. It comes on the webcam. All right, and then you can see here it says writing JPEG image to this file here. And we could pop out the SD card, plug it into my computer, and check that out. We're going to see it in just a couple minutes anyway, so we'll come back to that. But you can just hopefully trust me that that picture was taken. All right. So let's create a new app to interact with Dropbox. And have any of you worked with Dropbox's console before or their API before? None of you? OK. If you ever have any file storage needs, I have been super impressed with how easy it is to work with this. They have really excellent documentation. It's really easy to get up and going. It works pretty flawlessly with, do any of you use Dropbox just for like personal file storage or at work and stuff? OK, so works really well. My apologies, the internet's a bit slow here right now. But all right, so here we go. So when you sign up for a developer account, then you just drop into the console, and you can create a new app. And it's a RESTful API. It has also, they also have helper libraries in just about every language that's out there. So we'll just create a new app. I just told it here, hey, I only need it that I can basically segregate its files to its own folder, and I don't need to give this app access to all of my other folders, which is a pretty good thing for security's sake. Oh, we'll say go to Selfies. And so when I create this app, it's going to create a new folder in my publicly accessible Dropbox folder, or into the normal Dropbox folder that you would typically access. And then I'm just going to generate an access token here, which I'll use to make my API calls. All right. And now I will create a new file. We'll call this upload to Dropbox. And I'm just going to drop my access token in here. All right. And when I upload this, right now I'm just going to always save it locally to pic.jpg. But what I want to do is create a unique file name for this each time. So I'm just going to grab a timestamp. You do that like this in Python. And I'll just use the the Unix timestamp and then we'll create a unique file name and add on the timestamp, and then it's a .jpg. Oops. And then we'll just print that file. All right. And then we'll run this real quick just to make sure that our file names are being created OK. So that's what our file names are going to look like. All right, so then what we need to do is import Box.client, the Dropbox client, just in the same way that we did with the Twilio client. And once we do that, we're going to create a client in the same way that we did with the Dropbox. In the same way that we did with the Twilio client. It's just that with Dropbox, we only need the access token, whereas with Twilio, we need the account SID and the auth token. Then we're going to open up our file. And this is our picture. Okay. And once we've done that, then we can put that file into Dropbox. So say put file. And we first tell it the file name that we want to do, and then we pass to it the file. And once we do this, this is going to give us back a response. And if you want to see what kind of data is passed back, we can do that here. And so then when we run this, it's going to give us back a little bit of information about the file that it just uploaded. And then it's also going to store that picture in our Dropbox so that we can access it via the web console that will go in there. And I have a feeling that our internet's taking a sweet time on this one, so we will do. There we go. Okay. So you can see some of the information that comes back. There's only about 1 or 2 of these things that are really interesting to us. But then the other cool part is that when you open up Dropbox, and I'll just skip this for a second. We can go from there. Although this concerns me, it says we're resolving host right here. So this may or may not drop out on us in a little bit, but we'll see what happens. All right, so let's go back in. Now, what we don't have just yet is a publicly accessible URL. All right, and so we're going to need to grab that. And we'll just do it. We'll grab it from here. What we can do is just grab the path of the response, like this. And then we can grab a URL by using Dropbox's media command. All right, and then we'll print off that URL. And we'll see what happens when we run that again. Let's see. We might be dead in the water on internet here. Yeah, it looks like this is going to make it a little difficult. Looks like we have lost our LTE. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk this phone, because I'm running off the hotspot here. So we're going to walk this to the back of the room and see what happens. Yeah, no luck there. All right, well, let's see if we can figure out how to move forward with this without our internet access. So tell you what we'll do is let me show you what the actual script would look like. We may or may not be able to send out the text messages depending on if this comes back online or not. But I'll show you, you can probably guess about where we're going with this thing. And that is we're going to basically take the 2 files that we just wrote, and we're going to kind of Voltron them back together, and so that we can grab our publicly accessible URL from Dropbox. And then we can use that URL to send an MMS using Twilio. All right. So we will first create a new file, and we'll call this upload and send, py. And then we're going to take our Twilio file, and we're just going to append it to the end of upload and send here. All right. And then when we take a look at upload and send, all right, so we see we have our access token. We grab our URL. We're not going to need that here. But once we have our URL, then we're going to come down here, and we will, instead of sending a static URL, we will send the URL that we get back from Dropbox. All right, and that should be it then. Let's see how we're doing here. I still don't think it's going to work, but we'll see what happens. I'll tell you what, I know this is not going to work because internet's not coming through here. So, all right, so let's pretend that I hit upload and send, and it blasted out a text message to everyone. We take another picture here and whatnot. But the problem is that everything we've done right there, we didn't actually need the Arduino to do. We were doing everything in SSH. We were just running a Python script. Nothing impressive so far. We could have just done that right here. What the Arduino allows us to do is to trigger all those actions with the press of a button. All right, and so this is what, and if y'all want to come up and see this afterwards, just built a super simple circuit using on the Arduino. So this is literally example number 2 in the Arduino Getting Started guide. The Hello World of Arduinos is a program called Blink, and the I don't know whatever Hello World ++ is blinking at the press of a button, okay? So basically what happens is we're powering the Arduino off of a USB cable that's plugged into the computer, but you can also just plug it in using a wall wart into the wall. You can run it off a USB battery. And so we're running the power to the button. And then when the circuit's completed, then it's sending a signal down through the green wire into a pin, and it says, hey, I pressed the button, go do something. So the code for this is, we'll open up Arduino. This program, when you write Arduino programs, they're called sketches. And let's open up just the standard, this would be the example here. So let's see if we can zoom in. Is that a little bit better? Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so basically all we're doing here is we're defining the two pins. One is the LED, the other one is a button. And then your Arduino programs have two main components to them. One is the setup. This runs once, okay, when you first upload your sketch. And this is telling the Arduino where the button, where the LED is. And then you have the loop, and the loop runs thousands of times a second after the setup is run. And so all we're doing here is we're saying read the button. All right, so read pen, you go this up like read pen 7. And if the button is pressed, then blink the LED. And then we throw a little delay, this is 50 milliseconds, just to slow things down a little bit. Otherwise, like your battery drain is really high if you're running off a battery. And then blink LED, all this does is, once this is triggered, is it writes to it turns the LED high, waits 2 seconds, and then turns it low. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions there? Yeah?
Low in this case is like 0 volts off.
That's exactly right. Yep. High and low is like basically binary that's exactly right. All right, so like I was saying earlier, so we're just going to modify this. The Arduino Yun has 2 different microprocessors on it. And the way that you bridge the gap, so to speak, between those two is using a helper library called bridge. And then there's a second helper library called process that then lets you start processes on the second microprocessor. So we're going to create a new, or 2 new functions here. One is going to be called upload and send. All right. And the other one is going to be the one to take a picture. Like such. And basically, all we're going to do in these 2 is we're going to recreate what we already did. Oh, one thing I forgot here is we just need to begin the bridge when we do our setup. OK, so we're going to create a new process. And that process, in this case, in the case of taking a picture, is just going to run that FS webcam utility that we already did. And then we're going to add a parameter to it, like we did before, of the file name. And we're going to use the same file name that we were doing previously. And then we're going to add another one that is the resolution. All right. And then once we've constructed our process, then we're going to just go ahead and run it. And then upload and send is going to be super similar. We're going to, all we're going to do is we're going to run Python. All right, and we could probably actually do this all in one line, but just for the sake of making the code a little bit cleaner, easier to understand, we're going to pass in the full path of the script. Send.py that we wrote previously, and then we'll run that. All right, does that make sense? All right, so we're basically just using the Arduino sketch to recreate the commands that we were running from the shell earlier. And then we're just going to drop into here. So we're doing we're going to blink a light, and now we're going to take a picture, and then we are going to upload and send the picture. All right, and let's just check our internet. We'll cross our fingers here. Doesn't look like it's going to work here. So, but in theory, what would happen? We could probably actually, well, here, let's come up here.
Connect to the wireless here.
Unfortunately, no, because the Arduino and this need to be on the same Wi-Fi network, and the conference Wi-Fi doesn't it doesn't give you the nice IPs in order to do that. So it kind of sucks. But here, so you can come up here, you can verify that this works and this doesn't. Let's just see what's going on here. p.add parameter. Well, tell you what, I don't know that it does us a ton of good to debug this at the moment because it's not going to end up working anyway. But let me jump to the dramatic conclusion, and we'll show you the fact that that my dog actually was able to take a selfie. So we had the setup that we have right up here. And then it takes about 30 seconds for the picture to be taken, for it to upload to Dropbox, and then for it to come through on the phone. And that is how I taught my dog to send me selfies. So thank you all very much.